What up everyone, Shark here. Welcome back to the channel. I'm going to try something different today and I'm going to intro the game before I've even seen it. And so the first thing you'll notice, we're back on Angoville. I just can't get enough of it. In all honesty, when you get the replays sent into you and you know they're good, you just roll with what you got. Why I'm excited though, is playing as allies, we have StephennJF from Australia. If you guys haven't seen his channel, I'll link it down below. You really need to watch his stuff. He is playing Rangers against Lime T from South Korea, who is going to run the Terror Battlegroup. These are both extremely talented players, and I can't wait to see how StephennJF deals with the Terror Battlegroup and the Invisible MG. So without further ado, let's get to it. So like I said, we're back here on Angoville in blue, playing the US forces as StephennJF. And he is in the north spawn on Angoville, which I think the last couple games I've watched, the north spawn has lost. And so even though this map seems very symmetrical, I wonder if we will see that trend. And then here in red, playing Wehrmacht, is Lime T, and he's already locked in the Terror Battlegroup and the Invisible MG42. So I really want to see how Stephen counters this, and you know, I have to check with him. I'm not sure if he has casted this game himself, or I guess recorded his game. He can talk through his thought process as he's playing in a way that I've never seen anyone else do. Really incredible, and I want to know what he's thinking of and how he deals with the ambush camo MG42s. He's going to go barracks, get an engineer instead of a second scout, so very different than the normal build that we see from him. This is another thing here. This wire, I see a lot of players immediately throw this wire up, and it makes sense because it helps you defend this cutoff. He goes barracks, first rifle squad out. Meanwhile, Lime T went Kettenkrad into Grenadier, and he's still waiting on manpower for that first MG42. So, again, looking at Angoville, right? You've got this major cutoff here, and this, which is technically a cutoff. And I don't know if it's the shape of the territory, but it doesn't feel as accessible or as approachable as this cutoff here. So I feel like the south player has a slight advantage. Yeah, and then the Grens immediately hopping into this garrison, forcing the scouts away, and they are going to be able to grab this cutoff here. Not that it matters. StephennJF has only capped these smaller points. Rifles and engineers going to try to counter this Pioneer on the kind of the western side. Second Grenadier out for Lime T. Second Rifleman out for StephennJF. Oh no. What if he doesn't build any MG42s? I'll be extremely sad. Either way, we'll see how this goes. Also, really interesting to note, look at the VP count already. Not very often you see Wehrmacht just straight up in the lead in terms of map control and victory points. These Grenadiers, nice choice to immediately put down these sandbags. Now they're hanging out in green cover. The rifles are shooting at range from this crater. And there's really no additional support coming. There's a third rifleman on the way, but not going to hit the field very soon. Third Grenadier out for Lime T. And so it looks like StephennJF is going to take good control of the western side of the map very slowly. And now Lime T countering with Gren supported by Pioneers. Rifles drop into green cover here, and then two more squads of Grens coming around. Both players being very respectful in their early engagements and trying to maximize the engagement range here. Yeah, see, scouts can't deal with this. Engineers want to come up and help, and they pop a flamethrower, which is a nice early decision. Rifles now pushing the flank, so StephennJF wants to pressure this point here in this cutoff. Rifle trying to hold the cutoff against two Gren squads. Stephen forced to bring a rifle squad back. And you can see he's focusing down the one Gren squad, forces it to retreat, and now not going to get the wipe, so he can free to focus on the opposite squad. Engineers and rifles force away the Wehrmacht forces on this western cutoff, so it looks like StephennJF Going to take control of the western side of the map. Meanwhile, the Kettenkrad capping everything up on the eastern side. Not good for VPs, but the resources will eventually balance out in favor of the American player here. Yeah, all these Grens coming fresh out of base. Riflemen are going to bleed quite a bit if they don't get out of here. Oh no. Two-man rifle squad down to one. Taking a couple big volleys of fire, but it looks like it's going to escape. Wow. Scouts come up to support, but they need to be careful as well. Engineers move up trying to help. Oh man. Yeah, and now most of Stephenn's units in dire need of healing. We see the med station going down. ISC tech captain hits the field, and now we're going to see a mortar. And Lime T has gone. He unlocked the ambush camouflage, but didn't build a single MG42. So the mystery of how to deal with ambush camo MG42 is going to have to be solved some other time. Well, now I feel bad that the intro is just misleading, but nice use of the flanking maneuver here from the captain of this rifle squad to prevent the full cutoff from being capped. Stephenn hasn't teched grenades, and he's able to hold on to the cutoff for just a second, but man, look at this mass firepower here. 3 Gren squads and Pioneers of the Flamethrower. So Stephenn has just been shoved right back. Lime T's going Luftwaffe company, and I think, yeah, he goes Jaegers from it first. I almost feel like the 221 would be a really good counter as well. Oh man, Lime T going for the full eastern cutoff, and loss of this fuel would be huge. That's a lot of fire going down for not a lot of casualties. Rifles pushing their way out of the base here. Mortar now in support. Stephenn doing a good job countercapping with the scouts on the opposite side of the map. But yeah, all this green cover. Oh, big hit. Mortar's actually really, really nice for dealing with all these units as they try to make use of the various green cover around here. Interesting use of smoke, forcing the Grens to close. They pour it on them, but they can't actually see anything to shoot. Oh. And we see the scouts going for the +10 fuel on the eastern side. Mortar is doing work over here. Captain's going to cap the cutoff as the rifles pursue. So actually, Lime T had canceled the Jaeger, built a 221, and now has the Jaeger on the way. Stephenn really doesn't have any answers to this. The captain using marked vehicle, and actually I like that. That reduces the vehicle's armor, so now it allows better chance of penetration, even for these small arms. And that's it. StephennJF has locked in advanced infantry and unlocked Rangers, and his first squad of Rangers hits the field. And then look at this cutoff play. So he's taking advantage of the fact that Lime T is focused very much on grabbing this cutoff, and he's been able to cap aggressively on the opposite side of the map. Rangers now trying to close with these Grens. Oh, this rifle squad caught in a pincer between 4 Gren squads and a 221. The 221 could pursue here. Oh man, with the Grens in the building too. Fortunately, the rifles take a really advantageous retreat path, so they're going to survive. Rangers on the flank. I like this use of the hedgerow to avoid some of the more obvious long-range sight lines. Rangers flanking maneuver from the captain. Thompson's actually doing a lot of damage to the 221, but too much DPS here from the blob, so the Rangers are forced off. Rifles force away the Kettenkrab, which is now at Vet 2. And I can't believe Stephenn's been able to do this much damage to the 221 without a single anti-vehicle weapon. Now Jaegers join the blob with the G43 upgrade. Those may bleed the Rangers really hard if they're not careful. Stephenn's got the fuel for advanced logistics. I'm just kind of waiting for that to pop. I love these units standing in the smoke on the cutoff. Oh, I think that's contempt for the weak. So when the scout retreated, all of these units got a buff. And now, Stephenn's gone for a designated assault position. And then this is being immediately countered by the Jericho trumpets. So all the American units are slowed, even though they're gonna supposed to be moving faster, taking less suppression. Yeah, Rangers forced off. And I tell you what, Lion T has done a great job of making this fight about this cutoff and capping the remainder of the map. He's got a gigantic resource advantage, a 2-to-1 KD, and he's got a triple cap with only 260 VPs left for StephennJF. So we're going to see motor pull from Stephenn now. Meanwhile, Lion T going for support elements. So maybe some Whirlwinds to deal with the infantry. So Stephenn definitely needs some sort of AT here. I will be interested in seeing what he does with his Rangers. He does have some munitions in the bank, but if he's going to go for like a Greyhound, he's definitely going to need to bank up, you know, for the armored skirts and the 50 cal. So now Stephenn making a bigger push onto the kind of eastern, southern side of the map. It's just easier to think of this as north and this is south down here. Rangers on the flank getting close, mortar doing some damage. Oh, and now we see the NPC assault. That is a really interesting choice. Free manpower. And they come with bazookas that might do a lot of damage to that 221, which is already on partial health. Pioneer is forced away. Oh, a direct hit from the mortar. That 221 is just on a single HP. And the Rangers get the kill with the Thompsons. Now, Rangers just running and gunning. Kettenkrab gets knocked out by the NPC assault. And just like that, Stephenn has completely flipped map control. He'll be able to cap pretty much this eastern side and western side up. Now, Lion T has another Jaeger squad out, also gone for the G43s. So it looks like his primary anti-vehicle is going to be the Grenadiers or the Panzerfaust, which actually should work fairly well against the Greyhound that's on the way. Captain and the Garrison actually doing a fair amount of damage. I'm still not dropping a model, but burning down, doing some decent damage. Although now forced to fire at the flamethrower and then leave immediately. Oh yeah, the contempt for the weak kicking in. This captain is in danger. NPC assault on retreat. Rangers also recovering back to base. Greyhound is here. Oh, Jaeger's had a mine. Greyhound, yeah, he doesn't have the munitions to really upgrade any of it. With a lot of the more recent changes they've made to some of the American vehicles, the machine guns do so much more of the damage, so it's really important to be able to afford to upgrade the pencil-mounted 50 cals. Now, big infantry push on the west side of the map. And actually, this is where I feel like StephennJF is at his best, the way he's spreading out his approach here. And now the American units are scaling a little bit better, especially against the Grenadiers. The arrival of the Greyhound, definitely a mine laid there. When you see engineers standing nice and tight in that formation. Worth noting, neither side has a minesweeper. We're gonna have to see another engineer unit for both. Oh, these American engineers. They're gonna retreat. I think, yeah, he knows. He knows there's a mine there. He's doing a good job of dodging it. NPC assault is available again, but Stephen definitely lacking the requisite munitions at this point. Although he has his plus 16 unlocked now, 2 of them. So he should recover that relatively quickly. Rifles push up, force Jaegers off. Captain and Rangers working on these Pioneers and these Grens. Nice grenade, even though it was dodged, does a lot of damage. You can tell the Greyhound thinks about pursuing, but he does need to respect all these Gren squads, especially as they vet up. Their Faust range gets a lot longer. Now, P4 hits the field for Lime T, just as StephennJF's first AT gun comes out. Yeah, Rangers fine for dealing with those Grens. Not in a good position to deal with the P4s. And I feel like with the changes to machine guns, the P4 does quite a bit of damage as well. So you can't just leave infantry in there to stand in and tank face shots from it. It will get burned down pretty quick. StephennJF immediately responds by putting a Chaffee in the queue. AT gun backs up the Greyhound. 2 hits on the P4. These Axis infantry, when clumped together, though, they still so much DPS, especially at range with the bolt action weapons. Oh, airburst barrage comes in, and I think probably misclick. Lime T just immediately retreats his units on that fuel point. He is doing a good job of countercapping. Now the Chaffee's on the field. A 3rd squad of Jaegers coming out. Gren's hopping the garrison. Now P4 trying to deal with the captain. The captain has the ability to do marked vehicle. Rangers sprint forward. Chaffee's going for the Panzer IV. Wow. The armor bounces the first shot from the P4. Faust comes in on the Chaffee. Its shot bounces on the P4, but the Rangers force away the Grens. Chaffee on the flank almost knocks out the Pioneer squad. And this is not a bad engagement for StephennJF. The P4 is going to be off the field for a little bit while it repairs, and he's going to be able to cap up the eastern side of the map, the VP heavy side of the map. Oh, big hit from the mortar forces the Jaegers away. I feel like the Jaegers have underperformed in a way that I'm not used to seeing. I do like that Stephen he's not spamming the Rangers. He just has the one squad. He uses them as a high-powered close-range assault unit, right? Not even bother with the munitions drop, just letting them run the Thompsons to close with and just break up some of these Axis infantry blobs. The Jaegers hit another mine, and that's expensive. These Jaegers, though, with a Panzerschreck to the Greyhound. Wow, that was the worst Panzerschreck shot I think I've ever seen. Airburst barrage doing a ton of damage, but not getting any kills. So the Panzer IV healed up. Another Pioneer squad on the field with a minesweeper now. And now Stephen teching grenades so his rifles will be able to challenge some of these vehicles. P4 knocks down the wall to take a shot at that building. Greyhound finds MG42, gets one good shot in, and then whiffs the second. Ranger's in what looks like an ambush position here on these Jaegers to turn the corner, but instead they're going to back up. On the opposite side, Greyhound supported by rifles taking some damage from the Panzerschreck. Now the Rangers move up to challenge the Jaegers. The Jaegers trying to burn down the AT gun, do a really good job, but the Rangers force them away. A grenade combined with the mortar allows the rifles to win that engagement, but the other Jaegers force them off. Really wide range of engagements here. Really impressive that neither player has made any sort of like major error with all those units on the field. Oh man, Chaffee takes a couple of big hits from the P4. Greyhound's trying to support. Oh, and unlucky shot from the P4 sets off a mine. Fortunately doesn't crit the Greyhound that was sitting on top of it. Rangers, taking a ton of damage on this retreat path. Mortar force a retreat. Captain moves in. We see the marked vehicle come in. Wow, AT gun in the back gets a hit in, does a lot of damage. Captain forced to back off. And there's nothing here that can really challenge the Greyhound with the exception of the Panzerfaust. StephennJF doing a great job kiting. Oh, Vet 3 scouts knocked out by Grenzen Jaegers. Oh, one more hit on the P4. It's dangerously low. And with the P4 pushed back, the Greyhound can now advance on these Jaegers. A second Chaffee hits the field. And these light vehicles just rolling right up on MG42. And then pass it. He's pursuing the Jaegers. Now, additional Jaegers come out. Chaffee says, oh yeah, no, I don't want to be here. Backs up, immediately gets Fausted. Oh no. The Panzerschreck on these Jaegers might be enough. A smoke shot from the other Chaffee to obscure. Attack ground. Not gonna do it. And the smoke shot already paying dividends for StephennJF, helping him get that Chaffee out of there. Engineer's busy capping the fuel point here, but his vehicle is in desperate need of repairs. NPC assault on the field. Trying to figure out where they're aimed. They just going right down the gut here? P4 mostly repaired, going to push his way out while the Chaffee, one of the Chafees is engine critted. AT gun's going to set up. Rangers supporting the push. Oh, this Chaffee, it dove in way too tight to the Panzerschreck. And one Chaffee goes down. NPC assaults on the flank, though. Forces away Jaeger squad. Doing a lot of damage to this MG42. And the burst doesn't get off, so the MG42 going to try to retreat instead. It'll get away. And Steffen's got a nice little engagement area set up for these Jaegers. Has like a nice little arc of units here as Lime T tries to push out of his base. Oh, StephennJF's gone for the survival training. So now all of his units just going to get a little bit more HP and reduce cooldown. Oh, Greyhound finds a two-man Gren squad trying to cap the fuel point. They must have hit a mine and catches them on retreat. Nice pickup. And now using the Vet 1 ability to decap this VP. You'd love to see it. This is great for demonstrating all the utility available to the different units. The Vet 1 decap ability, the Chaffee smoke shot, the Captain flanking maneuver, and mark target. So a second Chaffee. Chaffee trying to get on the flank of the P4, unsuccessful. Rangers force the Jaegers back, but not to retreat. Yeah, that MG42 immediately suppresses rifles. Wow. Greyhound Takes a number of big hits, goes down to the P4. AT gun in the back doing a fair amount of damage to the P4. There's a Chaffee on the flank, but it can't find the Panzer IV. And just a solo MG42 trying to recap the eastern side. Meanwhile, Lime T, huge force composition on the west side of the map, supported by the MG42. Although, for whatever reason, it doesn't appear that its ambush camouflage is taking effect. I wonder if that's a symptom of the casting. Rangers get in close and get outside the arc of the MG42. They are taking a ton of damage from the P4 and the infantry. Rifle squad picks up one of the Gren squads on the +10 fuel point. But this is bad. There's a lot of weight to this Lime T push here onto the cutoff. Mortars caught out. AT gun on the flank. A couple penetrations onto the P4. Now here comes the NPC assault again to support and try to force away the Jaegers. So they're forced back, but they are covered by this MG42. Now the Chaffee comes up and smokes MG42, which should allow the NPC assault to keep pushing. An additional smoke shot onto the blob. He's trying to get... I love this. Trying to get these units through the arc. Good use of the smoke. Oh, if the Rangers find this MG42, they could knock it out. MG42 sets up at an odd angle. And the Rangers are going to force this whole blob away. And the NPC assault going to continue to roll. But in the meantime, all this is done, StephennJF has just recovered the west side. But in the meantime, Lime T has been capping up the east side of the map. We're finally seeing a tank depot for Stephen at the 27-minute mark. He's hurting a little bit on fuel now. We see the V1's been unlocked for Lime T, but he's several minutes away from having the munitions for it. P4 trading shots with one of the Chaffies. Second one moves in. Rangers move up. They get a grenade off onto the MG42, and it clears it. Big pickup for the Rangers. It's immediately going to be decrewed. The Chaffee's trying to knock it out, but the Pioneers pick it up. And all these Jaegers in the field, enough to force back the American infantry. Rifles trying to countercap on the opposite side, caught between an MG42 and a Grenadier squad. Oh, airburst barrage. Couple of good hits on this Jaeger squad to whittle their health down. Man, Tank Depot was still building that whole time. And this Vet 3 P4 now joined by a Brumbear. The Chaffee's definitely going to struggle to penetrate the front armor of the Brumbear, and they do have to be careful with two Gren squads still in the field and the Jaegers with Panzer Shreks.
Another infantry assault is ready at the rear. Give the word.
Rangers, I like this, pushing off to the side to find the Jaegers with the Shreks. Chaffee's trying to apply pressure to the P4s. Don't have to worry about snares right now, just the Panzer Shrek. Oh, but the Brumbear is here, and this does not bode well. Although Stephen could get a Hellcat out relatively shortly. Oh man, that airburst barrage doing so much damage. Finally, wow, it drops 3 models. Previously, it was just doing so much health damage, but not Not bleeding anything. Steffen's finally going to recover his cutoff again. And now Lime T pressuring his plus 10 fuel here.
Resources cut off. We have territory isolated. We've lost a territory sector.
Chaffee's find the P4, get a couple of big penetrations. Captain moved up, thought about the marked vehicle, decides against it.
Mass infantry assault initiated.
Another NPC assault hits the field, and the P4 back for repairs. This MG42 doing a great job of preventing Steffen from being able to counter cap on the opposite side of the map. Looks like the Chaffee, the captain, and the Rangers are going to go hunting for this MG42. Gren squad forced away. MG42 out of position and not in cover, so not invisible. Rangers supported by the NPC assault, but this MG42 is set up exactly in the right spot. Whole NPC, oh man, it's going to take a ton of damage from the Brumbear. Meanwhile, the Chaffee finds MG42 and forces it away. Rangers move up. Look like they're trying to get shots or grenade in off of MG42. On the opposite flank, rifles tangling with Jaegers, and the Chaffee moves up to try to challenge a Brumbear, but wow. Brumbear is just bouncing shots and bazookas left and right. AT gun arrives. Rifleman could get a snare off here. They just need one more munition. AT gun forced to back off. Brumbear continuing to push. Chaffee's on the flank. Nice patience there, waiting for the Brumbear to pass. Gets a couple of rear hits in, which do extra damage. AT gun firing from the front. It just bounces. First shot from the Brumbear knocks down most of the health. Now some penetrations. Looks like the AT gun's focusing on the P4. Oh no. Panzerschreck knocks out one of the Chaffies. StephennJF, Rangers trying to close out. And they do. They close out the Vetri Jaeger squad. Huge pickup. Those are the Jaegers with the Shreks. So now we're going to see a Sherman from StephennJF. He's floating some manpower as well. He goes for a second AT gun. Yeah, the lack of Jaegers with Shreks mean that now this Panzer IV, which is just on a sliver of health, is Lime T's entire AT. Steffen down to only 73 VPs, but still very much in it, doing a good job of capping while he repairs his Chaffee and starts to get his infantry reset. Now the Sherman hits the field. Gotta keep that hull machine gun faced properly so you can get all of that DPS. And those Jaegers take a ton of damage. This time, StephennJF not overextending with the Sherman. He's got a third AT gun in the build. It looks like a little mini pack wall here. Lime T is actually, his fuel income is cut way down, only +8. So he's not very close to a King Tiger. Although certainly he has the VP cushion to make that happen if he wants. Sherman, Chaffee, and AT gun find the Brumbear. Brumbear bounces a couple of shots to include the long-range AT gun shot. Man, they go in, think about diving. Oh. The P4 arrives. Brumbear's heavy armor keeping it alive. Chaffee forced to back all the way up. Sherman could pop smoke here. Instead, it's just going to hold ground and use the AT gun to do some damage to the P4. Good mine placement on the opposite side. Oh, another Gren squad. This time, oh, the building saves the Gren squad on retreat. MG42, actually, this is dangerous for these AT guns. They take a lot of damage in the first burst. Rangers find another MG42 on the flank. And another high vet Ranger or Jaeger squad. But unable, looks like they're not going to get the wipe here. Oh, the Sherman provides quite a bit of help though. P4 arrives as well. 3 Pioneer squads running around trying to repair all these Axis vehicles. AT gun, Vet 3, using its AP shells, penetrates the Brumbear again. Oh, one more shot would be enough. Chaffee goes down, but the Brumbear traded out, and now the P4 in serious risk of going down as well. Wow. AT gun does a ton of damage to the P4, but it will get away for repairs. Looks like Stephenn's going to use his time to try to expand map control just a little bit. Another Sherman in the build. 3 AT guns. I think he's about as set up as you could hope to be for the potential rival of the King Tiger. The AT guns aren't perfect, so he's going to have to try to get on the side or rear armor of it if that happens. I love this, using the smoke. P4 back on full health. AT gun in a really good position to immediately force that P4 away, prevent it from chasing. Yeah, and we are going to see it. KT is still trying to figure out how to get onto the battlefield. But Lime T pulls the King Tiger out. So it does come at a 50% fuel reduction while it's on the field. I think that's probably going to be okay though. What he really needs is not fuel at this point, but manpower to replace his losses. I like how in the distance you can just hear the KT creeping up. A pretty cool sound. I really like the sound effects that they've added in the 2.0 update. I mean, KT's just gonna roll right through this cover here. First shot comes in on some Rangers and whiffs pretty hard. Sherman's gonna smoke off the KT. Jaegers and Gren, supported by an MG42, are gonna be able to hold the flank. Yeah, and the KT trying to attack around through smoke just not as effective. And Stephenn instead is going to use his Sherman for mobility. Oh no, Captain gets gunned down, pinned by the MG42 and knocked out by the Jaegers with Gren support. Sherman looks like it's going to go for a little bit of a base dive here. Needs to be careful. He's going to back up after killing a couple different models of MG42. AT guns forcing the KT back. You know, 1 penetration, 1 bounce. Honestly, I'm impressed that the AT gun, it is Vet 3. Impressed that the AT gun's doing that well against the KT's front armor. Meanwhile, this Sherman in the base, oh man, may pick up this Jaeger squad here. Fortunate retreat path. The Grens immediately merge with it, which is really smart to keep it alive. Lime T's got enough munitions to snare that vehicle 12 times over. Jaegers almost go down, but it looks like they're gonna get, oh no, rifles on the retreat path. Jaeger squad picked up. Now the P4 finally comes back to deal with this pesky German white phosphorus round. The P4 doesn't pursue the right way, and so that Sherman might get away. AT guns and Sherman on the opposite side force the KT to back up. Oh, V1 comes in. I think it's going to land here. Going for the AT guns, but StephennJF figures it out in time and gets them out. Now the P4 though on the flank of the Vet 3 AT gun. Oh, snare through the hedgerow. P4 is snared. It's using its rapid fire ability to clear the Vet 3 AT gun. Sherman gets a rear hit on it. One more shot. Oh, but the rapid fire. Wow, Sherman gets the kill on the P4. KT, meanwhile, has moved up and is bullying these AT guns. Oh, but it's on prioritized vehicles, so it's not adjusting to shoot the AT guns. And at close range, the M1 AT gun penetrating the frontal armor of the KT. KT swivels around to kill the Sherman. Hellcat in the build now. Wow, bounces the front armor again. The AP rounds, maybe? Another bounce. Gren's here applying some pressure. Oh, big shot. Penetration there. KT just on a shred of HP. Airburst barrages come in. Force the Pioneers away. Riflemen hop on the AT gun. And it bounces another shot. Another AT gun picked up. Oh my gosh, this KT barely surviving. But clearing both AT guns. Stephen has taken atrocious losses. Has one Hellcat on the field. Another Sherman in the build. Hellcat. It finds the KT. Penetrates from the front. One more hit. Oh no. But the Hellcat does it at point blank. Knocks out the KT. Stephen hits him with the smiley face. Oh man. Sherman coming. So Lime T down to 1 Jaeger squad, 2 Grens, 2 MGs, and 3 Pioneers. That loss of fuel income actually hurt him because he's another full minute away from a tank. Sherman hits the field for StephennJF. He's down to just 2 rifles, a ranger, a mortar, and an engineer as well. Oh, and Stephen is very lucky this Hellcat ran into a Jaeger squad and not a Grenadier squad. A Faust would have been enough to kill it. And Lime T is going to just surrender here.
The enemy has been defeated.
All right, so I'm going to start here with Lime T. And obviously, based on the intro, I was a little disappointed that we didn't see the MG42s until late. But we did see a good example of how Wehrmacht is played in the meta, right? So Kettenkrad, which I think is really useful on this map with some of the high munitions points and the ability to counter cap on the opposite side. Terror Battlegroup, Infantry Company, 4 Grenadiers. And I think Grens are having a little bit of a return. You would see this strat a little bit in the last patch, but Grens are pretty potent when they're microed well and when they're combined either in 2 Gren sections or Gren with a Pioneer with a flamethrower in support. So they do fairly well until it's not even really the Rangers, it's the NPC assault that starts to turn the tide on the Grenadiers and make them less useful. They obviously don't scale as well as the Jaegers, but 4 Grens, you saw the effectiveness here. Lime T able to spread out the map, take huge early resource and VP advantage over Stephen. He goes Med Station. It's a choice. He had lots of good fuel control, so I'm not mad about that. On a map like this with high munitions, though, I think it's still viable to go for the bunker with the healing. Obviously, you get the casualty clearing as well, which might have helped him a little bit late game. Then he goes Luftwaffe Company, and this is really kind of the meta here. I think I'm going to talk a little bit later about why I think this is actually a poor choice. The 221 I like at the time. I think it's good for dealing with the riflemen, especially until the Americans get snares, which they really don't get until late. Provides a lot of DPS, but he doesn't really repair it, and eventually it does get chunked down and killed by the Rangers. Then 2 Jaegers with the G43 upgrade, and you can tell that because of this, Lime T thinks his problem is an infantry problem and not a vehicle problem. And so when Stephen pivots hard into the motor pool, these Jaegers are kind of caught out. They're very durable. They do good damage, but there's not really anything for them to tangle with. The riflemen don't scale that well, but the Rangers consistently push them off when they get in close, and the mortar does a lot of damage. And I think here, I actually called out in the cast that Lime T was going for support elements. He cancels it and goes for the Panzer Company instead. I think this is a good choice. The P4 is in a great place right now. The problem is he only gets 1. He gets a 3rd squad of Jaegers that he gets with a Panzer Shrek to help deal with some of the light vehicles. Really, if he had had all 3 Jaegers with Shreks on them, that light vehicle strategy from StephennJF would not have worked at all. And then he ends up going late MG42s to try to deal with the American infantry. They do work fairly well, but because they're not vetted up, they don't scale as well as you would like, and they get constantly kind of harassed. Then he goes Brumbear, and then multiple Pioneers to try to repair those units before finishing the game with a King Tiger. And as much as I love to see the KT in the game, and I thought it did a good amount of work, I feel like it's a mistake. I feel like massed Panzer IVs, the Brumbear is not a bad choice, but a couple of P4s to deal with the light vehicles and then just do a lot of damage to the infantry. Remember, StephennJF didn't get advanced logistics, so I think that would have been really helpful. And then the KT, even though it doesn't really affect manpower income, and he had some initial battlefield success with it, because it costs him half of his fuel income, when it eventually dies, he can't replace those losses. And so the Americans actually, it really just kind of helps them get back in the game there. Looking at the battle group, obviously he unlocks the invisible machine guns, doesn't use them until late, goes for oh my gosh, what's it called? Oh, goes for Contempt for the Weak, and then the Jericho Trumpet and the V1. Takes one V1 shot. It's a nice idea. Stephen figures out immediately what the shot is coming for, moves his AT gun so it doesn't hit anything, unfortunately. Late, picks Defend the Fatherland, and then obviously the King Tiger. Okay, now taking a look at StephennJF's build, and I really like this because I think he uses the Advanced Infantry Battle Group to accentuate or to enhance kind of the base USF gameplay. So Scouts, Engineers, which he upgrades with the flamethrower, but mainly uses to lay mines and does so to great effect. Anytime a 30 munition mine kills 2 Jaeger models, that's a big pickup for you. Barracks, 3 rifles. This allows him to try to spread things out. Unfortunately, he is outclassed early by the 4 Grens and the Kettenkrad, so he's on the back foot. Infantry Support Center, the captain helps him a little bit. He uses mark target and flanking maneuver brilliantly throughout the early game. Gets an M1 mortar team, and this I think does more work for him than you would think, especially because he's not dealing with team weapons, but both the Grens and the Jaegers love to fight from cover, and the mortar, when it's well microed, does a lot of damage to support infantry pushes. This is when he decides to go Advanced Infantry Battle Group. He converts 1 rifle squad to Rangers, uses them really, really well, right? He's constantly moving that particular squad around, keeping the engagements at close range, and using their veterancy and their sheer damage to outscale the Wehrmacht infantry and basically force retreats, challenge team weapons, etc. So really, really good play there with the Rangers. I think they actually killed the 221 with their SMGs as well, which is nuts. Motor pool. This is another, normally I would say like avoid digging heavily into bridging units, but he's playing with motor pool units until like the 27-minute mark. And this is a fantastic example of how you can use Greyhounds and Chaffies into the late game if you don't throw them away. Greyhound, AT gun, 2 Chaffies. Really, it's 3. He loses 1. I know I said don't throw away your units, but 2 Chaffies on the field. That is enough to allow him to deal with the Panzer IV and still use his infantry against the Wehrmacht infantry. So the middle of the game here characterized by a lot of back and forth engagements, but he at least has gotten Lime Tea off of his doorstep, off of his cutoff, and gotten himself some space and some time to figure out the late game. He decks grenade package eventually. It's a little late, honestly, but it does work, right? It allows him to snare, allows him to throw frags. I'm not sure why he waited. I think if you're going to play Ranger heavy, then you essentially prioritize advanced logistics and you ignore grenade package and BARs because the Rangers don't need them. Obviously, he's just using the single Ranger squad, so the grenade package required for the rifles. The survival training towards the end, great choice. I think late game survival training pays off more, whereas advanced logistics pays off more in the early game, right? I think the longer you have that advantage, that manpower cost reduction, the more it helps you over the length of the match, versus survival training just helps you stay in engagements longer and deal with some of the explosive damage in the late game from tanks that would otherwise just kill models outright. And this is finally where he goes Tank Depot. He leans really heavily into the Shermans. He has 2 Shermans on the field, gets a total of 3 AT guns, and this is what allows him to deal with the KT. Even with all of the bounces off of its armor, 3 AT guns, that's just so many dice rolls. He eventually gets the hits that he needs. Ironically, both Shermans die, all the AT guns die, but the Hellcat that he builds at the end of the game is enough to kill the KT and basically force Lime T to throw in the towel. So I like this build order. I think it is, like I said, it's not like vanilla USF, but he's focusing on the base capabilities of the faction. He uses the motor pool really well, so I guess motor pool no longer dead. And then he uses the tank depot units, again, microing them so well that they deal with Wehrmacht counterparts that, you know, on paper might actually be better. Looking at the advanced infantry battle group, he doesn't even touch the right side of the battle group. He doesn't need it. He goes Rangers, designated assault position, and infantry assault. That is really, I think, what saves him. The NPC assault allows him to use munitions to get Lime T off of his doorstep, off of his cutoff, and give him the space to expand and get back into the game. So awesome choice. I love the thought process behind it. Really fun to see Rangers used this way rather than the 4-squad Ranger spam. I don't know who does that. Definitely not me. Okay, so a handful of takeaways for you here. And I'll actually start with the map because this is the third time I've casted Angoville in a row. And it is a great map, but I'm starting to notice I feel like the north spawn is at a slight disadvantage because of how easy it is to press their cutoff. The southern cutoff is supported by, it's got that weird wall there, which can kind of prevent reinforcements from coming out, but it also has a garrison to hold on to it. And so I suppose if you can get into that garrison, you can abuse the southern cutoff, but I feel like every game I've seen so far, the northern player is struggling to hold their primary cutoff. So keep that in mind if you're playing this game. Focus on that side and apply pressure as required. When I think about kind of the tactics here and the build orders are really interesting because I don't think there's anything inherently wrong with the build order, but I think the game highlights a couple of things from these builds. So one, light tanks in general, I think are really effective bridging units as long as they're microed effectively. You saw the capability of the Chaffies here, right? So a couple of Chaffies, well supported by infantry and AT guns, holds off a Panzer IV and a Vet 3 Panzer IV at that for most of the game. The Greyhound does some work. He is lucky that the Jaegers went for G43s and not Shreks. Shrek Jaegers would eat up the Greyhound, but the Greyhound does a lot of work and again helps buy StephennJF some time. You also see this on the Brit side with the Crusader, right? The Crusaders also scale really well. And so this kind of shifts into my second point is that the kind of the current tank meta, even though the whole point of the Fire and Steel update was the addition of heavy tanks, multiple mediums will outclass and just straight up beat a single heavy. And so it doesn't seem to make sense. Like if you think about the historical context, the idea behind a heavy tank is the guns of the mediums can't penetrate it. Meanwhile, its gun is so heavy, it can knock out another tank with a single shot, right? So, for example, the game we saw where Havoc overran a Tiger with 3 Crusaders. In real life, the Tiger would just one-shot each one of the Crusaders, the engagement's over, move on with your life. That's not how the game is playing out right now. I want to talk about this eventually because I think that the penetration tank battle mechanics in this game need an overhaul, similar to the overhaul we saw for infantry in Onyx Shark. But that's kind of a topic for a separate day. Right now, if there's a single heavy unsupported by AT guns, a handful of mediums or even light tanks like Chaffies are more than enough to overwhelm it and kill it. And so this is my only issue with Lime T's build order. I think what he really needed was a couple of martyrs to complement his P4. I know he felt the pressure from the American infantry, but a couple of martyrs with a P4 in front or a Brumbear in front would do really well because anytime the Chaffies or the Shermans pushed, they'd be immediately knocked down to half health and have to back off, and you can start to take back control of the map, especially with the MG42s. The other option is you go Panzer Grenadier Company, and then you get Pack 40s out, same general effect. There was the one mortar, but otherwise not a lot of artillery on the American side, so either one I think would be viable. Again, I kind of talked about this with StephennJF. I think this is a great example of how to use the battle group to enhance the base faction. Both players did this if you think about it, right? So StephennJF, just a single squad of Rangers, constant use of the NPC assault, that allows him to kind of press the enemy, and the Ranger squad scales better than his rifles do against the Jaegers, so it allows him to get some local superiority and start to claw back some of those engagements. On Lime T's side, the terror battle group, think about just the general enhancements to Wehrmacht, the invisible MG42s that show up late in the game, the contempt for the weak, defend the fatherland. These things just kind of help the units fight better, but you don't, it's not like, okay, well, I'm going to only build Aussies or I'm going to only build Rangers. It doesn't totally change how you play the game, which I kind of like. It's using a battle group to enhance the base faction, which is kind of fun. Last thing here, King Tiger. Its armor is really thick, but it's not impenetrable. And when you think about the number of dice rolls that you get by having multiple AT guns shoot at a KT, eventually you're going to penetrate. I don't really know the fix for this. I think the KT right now is a little bit underpowered, which I'm kind of okay with, right? Like I know that the new battle groups were DLC. Nobody wants to see pay to win battle groups. So I'm glad that the KT doesn't just show up and delete everything on the battlefield. But I can imagine it's a little tilting when there really is no like truly heavy AT on the field until the Hellcat shows up. Shermans and AT guns being a KT. Now, the King Tiger was kind of unsupported on its own, had to take a lot of shots. I think either the KT probably needs some help in that maybe the 50% fuel penalty is too much. Or like I said, I think you really might need to start thinking about an armored engagement rework. Light vehicles feel kind of strong. Tanks feel a little bit weak at the moment. So I'll probably have more to follow on that in a little bit. But that, I think, is all I've got. Thanks for sticking with me on this one. I know it was a long game, but really, really good example of how to play both of these battle groups. I hope you guys enjoyed, and that's going to do it for us here. I'll see y'all in the next one.